Progress update on the A220X for Microsoft Flight Simulator. The A330 enters into beta, and more information in today's news. So stick around, guys. Make sure, if you guys can, that you join us at Flight Sim Expo 2023. That's right, Overkill Simulations is going to be present this year, guys, at the Lone Star Museum in Houston, Texas. If you guys are interested in joining us there, be sure to check down the description below. There is a coupon code that can save you guys a bit of money using my personal reference to get you there. Again, that'll save you a bit of cash in your Flight Sim Expo 2023 experience. This is going to be June 23rd through the 25th of 2023. Again, in Houston, Texas, at the Lone Star Flight Museum. I went a few years ago in Las Vegas, and they are an absolute great time. There's some very, very informative and educational seminars to help better your flight simming experience, as well as a ton of developers of both hardware and software that you guys actually get to try out, essentially a try before you buy experience, as well as talking with the developers themselves and finding out what the products are all about. So again, guys, it's going to be Flight Sim Expo 2023 in Houston, Texas. I hope to see you guys all there. Don't forget to use my coupon code that you can find down in the description below. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkills tutorial guides or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future guides that come along down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below, and thank you to all of my current subscribers. All right, so first up, yesterday, guys, there was an awesome stream by Synaptic Simulations in regard to their A220X, or A22X, if you will. Now, they are working, for those of you who don't know, they are working closely with Flybywire Simulations. For those of you who do know, you've probably seen A22X in the Flybywire installer for quite some time. So yesterday, Synaptic Simulations did a really awesome live stream on YouTube, and I'll be sure to share a link to that live stream if you guys want to go back and check it out. It was extremely informative, and you got to hear from pretty much the entire development team, and you got to really dive down and see how far they were going into the detail of this aircraft. So starting out with some of the exterior pictures here, guys, you can see that just here on the wheel hub, on the rim here, look at all the details, all the bolts, rivets, and everything has been meticulously designed up to real world specification in regard to the texturing and modeling. Everything from the exterior textures, from windows to rivets to probes to heaters to engine vanes, you name it. I mean, it's all been modeled exactly as close to exactly as they can to the real A220. Some of these screenshots, guys, really take the time to look at all the detail that's being put into everything. Look at where all the bolts are. Look at the spring details. Look at the everything from control arms to doors to rivets to slides. And you're going to see just how far they are really going into the development of this particular aircraft. I have to say, from a texturing perspective, it's certainly being modeled far greater than just about anything that I have seen thus far. Notice that you're not seeing any pixelization at joints. You're not seeing any joints overlapping. You're not seeing any rivets that are popping out or look like they're misplaced. All the curvatures and the lines are perfectly adjoined with each other. There's no overlapping or weird artifacts that make you go, wow, that doesn't belong there. They've really taken this above and beyond, right down to the undershot. Look at all the maintenance doors that have been modeled, all the lights and the light housing, shadowing that's being done. Again, that exterior texturing on edges and sharper corners, perfectly lining up with their respective side surfaces. They've really gone above and beyond. Looking at the landing gear struts and the landing gear assembly here in this image, you guys can see, I mean, don't just look at the whole thing as one item, but literally work your way from the bottom up. One of the things that they pointed out yesterday in the stream that I really appreciated was when you take a look at, for example, this is the cargo door. Look at all of the latches. Each latch has been modeled individually, and there's been no copy and paste in the development of any part of this aircraft. Every texture has been hand drawn or hand created, if you will, to reflect its real world counterpart. Everything, for example, look at the light housing right up here. You guys can see just how far the detail is really going. And some of you may think, well, that's kind of silly because, you know, when are we going to spend time in the cargo bay? But it really depends on what kind of environment you're looking for, especially if you're trying to do some sort of cinematic creation or content, you know, then this kind of stuff really comes into play. Anything that should actuate, actuates. Anything that should blink, blinks. Anything that should just be there and look pretty is there and looking pretty, but it's all looking very nice. Like they are really going out of town for this thing. And again, here's another perfect example of just how beautiful and how great of a job they're doing here. Look at all the venting up here, everything from the netting to the lighting. And the lighting, they seem to be paying a ton of detail to as well. I was super blown away by how far they are going with the development of this particular project. And again, this is supposed to be a free aircraft. I'm shocked by this. I'm absolutely shocked. From what they're saying so far in its development phase, little to no frame rate difference to any other aircraft. There doesn't seem to be any significant frame rate impact based on how they're developing this aircraft. All right, so next thing we're going to talk about with the A220 is some of the features that were brought up in regard to some of the avionics. Now, we're not going to dive too deep into it, but we can talk about a few things that we do know that are going to be available at day one. First off, is a Navigraph SimBrief integration from the day of launch, meaning that you will be able to import your flight plans directly from SimBrief as you can with many other aircraft. Another really cool thing is that you're going to have moving maps capability, meaning that taxi ramps, parking gates, runways, obviously everything that you would see in any kind of moving map will be available to any of those who already have a Navigraph subscription. Now, this is being brought to us because of the aircraft data API that was created by Navigraph and introduced into Microsoft Flight Simulator, and that's why the subscription is going to be required. Now, there is some sort of alternative that will be available later on for those who do not have the Navigraph subscription, but I will tell you guys, if you're big into commercial flight, whether it be the Flybywire, whether it be the Phoenix A320, whether it be an A220, A330, 747, 737, it doesn't matter. If you're really big into commercial flight, even down to the TBM 930, I highly recommend you get the Navigraph subscription. And no, Navigraph doesn't pay me to do this. I don't have any kind of partnership with them. But I've been using Navigraph for years, all the way back into the days where I first started flying in simulation with P3D, and I think it was version 3 point something. It was long time ago. It's an extremely handy tool to have on board. So I do want to toss that out there. Now, some of the other cool features that are going to be available is also part of the flight planning system is going to be extremely robust and very, very detailed. So many of your approaches and things like that will be very easy to identify based on some of the information they've added already into the avionics system. Here we see a better representation of the moving map capability, much like you see with Navigraph charts. Again, this is why the subscription is required. But this is not going to just be built into the sim like we have with the toolbar. This is actually built directly into the cockpit. And that's going to make that significantly more advantageous to have on board with your flights. Here's an example of what I was talking about a minute ago about how detailed your approaches and your flight plan information is going to be. Right down to identifying not just what we see with many aircraft right now, we'll see ILS, runway 9 left, where now you actually get the Cat 2, Cat 3, Cat 1 breakdown so that we can be sure to select the correct approach for what you're looking for. And this is just one of many great features that they showed off in the stream. The stream's a bit a long one. It was a little bit over an hour long. I do still recommend that you guys watch it. There was a ton of really awesome information included in this. And again, here's another great representation of the moving map and how detailed and fine-tuned that they've really driven this down to. And again, that has to do with the API airport data that has been supplied by Navigraph. So there's going to be a ton of really awesome features. We're not quite done with the avionics yet, so check this next piece out. On top of your standard communication features that you would see with any other aircraft, one of the things that I really like that this one has, this is the first one in simulation that I have seen, is that you can actually preset a lot of your radios. Meaning that you can, so if you know that throughout your flight, you're going to need, if you're, for example, here they're showing a departure, it looks like out of JFK. And let's say you know that you're going down to, I don't know, tossing one out, Miami, right? You could pre-input your Miami frequencies. Now, whether that be in And this goes for your departure frequencies, air traffic control. Air traffic control, that was very genuine or general, wasn't it? Let's back that up. So you could manually type in or preset your ground, your clearance, your departure, your centers, and then your arrival frequencies, tower, etc. Right? And then just scroll down your list, select the one that you want, and boom, you have it ready to go. That's pretty awesome. I've never seen one, and maybe I'm just behind the curves, but I haven't seen anything in simulation that allows you to preset the frequencies that you're going to need. Now, there's many really cool tools out there that help you pre-select your radios, or sometimes we'll even select the radio frequencies for you, depending on what you're doing, especially with ILS frequencies. As you come into the approach mode, many of the aircraft automatically tune the ILS approach frequency based on whatever approach that you happen to set in. But this is actually setting in your radio frequencies. So could make this pretty cool, especially for you people on VATSIM or Pilot's Edge, when you know that you're going to be needing this. And as we all know, sometimes tuning frequencies in a flight simulator can be kind of a pain in the butt, especially if you're using mouse and keyboard. It can be kind of daunting to quickly change the frequency over like you're needing to. So being able to have that quick select option, definitely a really handy tool in my opinion. Finally, the last little bit that I'm going to touch on in today is talking about the detail in which they've gone into the electrical system. One of the really cool things that they showed off here that I really appreciated is you can see on the electrical panel there on the far right screen there, when the APU was started, which is what this screenshot is. This is a screenshot of the APU just being started. You actually were able to see the power being drawn from the other systems around it. So you would see the total voltage and total available power of the other electrical systems sort of fluctuating a bit and being pulled by the APU as it began to start. So the electrical system also is being very highly detailed and highly modeled to try to best simulate the real world aircraft and some real world performances. Now, where this all wraps up to me is when you have all of this detail to texturing and modeling and hydraulics and electronics and radios, I'm actually kind of excited to also see what are they going to do with failures. Does that mean that we're going to have a more advanced failure system where we start to really experience maybe some legitimate troubleshooting that you may have to do as a real world pilot up in the air? So super excited for the A22X. I was really stoked. I normally don't watch a lot of these live streams in their entirety. And this one, they had me from the start. I was cleaning the office while I was watching it, and it was a really good video. You don't have to necessarily watch all of it, but like I said, if you're doing something, maybe doing some work on the computer, or like I was doing, cleaning an office or your living room, whatever it may be, maybe folding some laundry, this is a good one to put on the background and just hear the things that they're doing. And then I guarantee there will be certain parts that you're gonna be like, wait, what was that? And you're gonna go and back it up. But it was pretty cool. It was a really good stream and very informative, and really hyped me up for this aircraft much further than what I was prior to watching this stream. A real quick update from Got Friends before we jump into the A330. Got Friends Astro One, guys, I've done a couple of videos on this. This thing is a ton of fun to fly. It is $10 US, but it has already received its latest update. And the thing that they did with the latest update is that I was very happy about is they sort of tweaked some of the flight dynamics and added a landing assist mode, which makes the aircraft far less tricky to land. That was my one of my big gripes about this aircraft, is it was definitely difficult to land because in the lower RPM ranges, it would sort of either just fall out of the sky or you'd be climbing. Fall out of the sky, you'd be climbing. So it was really hard to get it down to the ground. So it sounds like they've added a landing assist option to sort of help with that. They also added a 50% power reduction when the batteries reach a critical point, therefore forcing you into a landing situation, or I should say further advising, hey, dude, you need to land. Because the thing is, at 4,000 RPMs, which is the halfway point, you can't get very high with it. You can't go very fast with it. It's definitely one of those like, all right, I'll land and charge the batteries kind of thing. So definitely some other tweaks that took place with the aircraft, but I did want to make sure this one made the page today because I have had an absolute blast every time I've flown it. It really is a lot of fun. Late last night, I actually took it through the Grand Canyon and had a really good time with it. It's really a cool aircraft to take out in the middle of nowhere and just sort of poke around and look at things. Especially with all the features and capabilities that it has. So again, guys, this is $10 US on the Got Friends website. A link to that will be down in the description below. Make sure you guys check it out. And finally, another big piece of commercial news, and that is the A330 has entered into a beta state, and it has been given out to many more or a larger group of beta testers. The developers have basically stated that texturing and animation is for the most part complete, meaning that all of the doors, windows, latches, wheels, etc., anything that should be animating or textured is ready to go, which is a very, very good sign, especially given the fact that further supports it being pushed into the latter of the beta stages of testing. Now, one of the things that I was really impressed with when it came to this aircraft is they basically stated that the aircraft and many of its systems are extremely accurate. Not necessarily going out to say that it's a dead-on one-to-one, but this definitely brings a big welcomed addition to the Airbus series of aircraft from Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, there are still many things that still need to be addressed, such as the MCDU, LNAV, VNAV functionality, and the ECAMs still need quite a few changes as well. So the aircraft is not definitely what you would call complete, but is definitely well on its way. Now, everything from the electrical system to the FADEC system, cabin heat, electrical power, and hydraulic systems are being fully modeled with this particular aircraft. Now, we don't have any kind of release date as of yet. The developer did state that, again, being pushed out to many more beta developers and testers. And then so that sort of gives us the hope that obviously the aircraft is nearing a point where we may start seeing an aircraft release. One of the other things that the developer did state in regard to release was that he would not give any kind of date or time frame as of yet. He did state that it was being pushed over, or information was getting ready to be delivered over to the marketing team. Now, anytime that information of a product is delivered over to a marketing team, then obviously you guys know what the next step is. Marketing then has to develop their pre-sale and advertisement pitches for a particular product, which means that it's getting ready to go into the hands of the end users, being us. Now, I will say this, being a skeptic, unfortunately, on this particular product, I am still going to pick it up. The A330 is a much larger aircraft. I don't feel like we have enough large aircraft in the simulator. I like the ones with the big, giant landing gears and the huge wings that seem to stretch for miles. It's just something cool about flying something big and heavy. And right now, really the only thing that we have in that category is the 787. And the 747. Now, as beautiful as both of those aircraft are, we all know that they are still struggling in many, many areas. The 747 definitely being the better off of the two, given the fact that Salty's team has taken it over and certainly put a lot of effort into refining the overall aircraft performance. So now that we have an A330 coming up into the market, that's obviously super exciting. But what brings me to my point of skepticism and concern is the Aerosoft CRJ series. Unfortunately, to many, many simmers, including myself, though they are still enjoyable in plenty of aspects, do not get me wrong, I don't feel like they necessarily meet the price point that they're put at. They certainly have had many issues and many bugs that have plagued them, some of them for quite a long time. And given the length of time that the aircraft has been released, you would think they'd be far more refined than unfortunately what many of the systems are. Although I absolutely wish Aerosoft the best with this one, and I hope this absolutely turns the table for them. Again, I will stress, I will be buying this aircraft and sending it to the skies of Overkill Simulations. But it is a point that makes me go a little bit of, I hope this all works out. Super excited for this particular aircraft. It's an absolutely beautiful plane. The texturing and the modeling that seem to be put into the aircraft is gorgeous. And like I said, a very, very welcome addition to the simulator that I'd like to see be refined and just meet all of the expectations that we have for it. I mean, I love this large wing aircraft. It's such a beautiful plane. Airbus makes some really cool planes in general anyway. And no, I'm not necessarily an Airbus fan. There's plenty of Boeing aircraft that I feel the same about. But I like the A330. A330 definitely has my attention. I still want the A380 Flybywire, but we know it's coming eventually. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. What's your feelings and what are your anticipations like for the Aerosoft's A330? Last up on the list here, guys, I did just want to remind everybody one more time that the ATR will be releasing on the marketplace this week. Being Tuesday, the aircraft will be available and ready for flight out of your own personal hangar for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Make sure that you guys stay tuned for that if you're interested in that. Again, should be Tuesday morning. You should have access to purchase this aircraft. As always, guys, stay safe and healthy, and I will see you wonderful folks in the next one.